This is gonna be the goal. It's a little, it like stands up, sort of. Yep. Woohoo. The body doesn't, color of the body doesn't really matter, but I'm gonna use red so it's more festive. Yeah. So we're gonna make the head first because it's easy. It's actually harder. The body's easier, so we're gonna do that later on. First you want to roll it into a ball, and I think it's a little too small, so I'm gonna go a little bit bigger. Just make sure to get a size that you like for the head. You don't want it to be too big because then you won't have enough clay to make the body and it won't stand up right. So you roll it into a sphere first. Like this, it's a sphere now. And then you kind of pinch at one side to make a teardrop shape. It's kind of like a triangle now. And then you pinch the other way too, so that it has like 4 sides that are kind of flat. But when you do this, you kind of want it to be sloped. So it's not all 4 sides are pointing straight upwards. It's like a right triangle from this side. Just be very gentle. You want to maintain mostly the circular integrity, like the main way for this to succeed and like look kind of cute like it's supposed to is just everything has to be really gentle because you want to make sure that it stays for the most part like very circular. So I'm gonna push down on one side to create like a deeper indent for the nose, snout, mouth, whatever, and taking care to make sure like the top here still stays very circular. Yeah, this is how it's supposed to, you know, kind of look. It's like a little square in the front, triangle on the side, like that. Yep. So this is the head, and I think I'm gonna move on to the body now, actually. So your body ideally it has to be bigger than the head. I'm just squeezing this in. So just a tip for now, when you make this, everything should be like a little skinnier, because as you're pressing on like the horns and like the marking on the top and like the ears, everything's just gonna flatten out as you press your hands into it. So it's better to start off a little skinnier than like intended. And then for the body, also roll into a circle. Make sure that it's going to be big enough to hold your head, because if your body's not like significantly bigger than your head, it's not going to stand up because it's not going to hold the weight of the head. And we're also putting stuff on the head, so that's another thing. After you roll it out, you kind of press on it a little bit and make it into just like a tiny bit of an oval. It's an oval, not a complete circle. And then so to form the legs, you can see they're barely there. What you do is after you have this kind of shape, oval shape, you take your fingers and very gently just pinch both sides until you form little peaks. So that was one right there. You do it right next to it. And then form the second little peak right next to it. The goal here is just to try to make them even and like look kind of like the same. Yep, see? That's 2. And then you do the same thing to the back. Just kind of pinch at it. Just pinch upwards like that in like both directions until it comes up. Very gently, because you do want to keep this still close to an oval or as like circular as you can. And they don't have to come out a lot, like, because sometimes if you pinch too hard, they'll be like really skinny at the top. And I kind of like to keep them rounded so they look like, you know, like cute, I guess. And I'm going to press down the bottom a little bit just to smooth it out. And then, like, you can see my fingers from like the top where I was holding it. I'm going to try to smooth those out to keep the body itself more circular. And then I noticed that my legs are a little uneven, so I'm going to try to fix that. Tapping on the ends to make sure they stay flat. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to be sitting down anyway. So as long as like the outside looks okay, I'm smoothing back down the places where my fingers made indents when I was pressing out the legs. You just want to be able to sit it down on the ground like that. And yeah, just make sure, I'm just trying to keep it circular. Like I said, that's like a really big point of this. Woohoo! It looks like this. If you see, that's how this one looks too. And then so later we're gonna just plop the head on. But I like to make the features first before I put on the head. So right now I'm gonna be making the ears, these two floppy things. You're just gonna take two small balls, try to make sure they're the same, that they're just the same, like they're the same, you have the same amount of material in both. Okay, so the way you make the ears is you roll it into a sphere like before, and then this time you take it and you just squeeze and down like that. And then you do it again to the other side so that it stays like this. So it forms a teardrop shape. It just looks like a teardrop. And then you press down on the teardrop. So this is like pretty circular at the top, right? Well, you want it to be kind of straight. So you press down this way and then you kind of press down on it more until it forms long enough to be a ear. Like that. And then I'm going to try to smooth out the front because I like it when my ears are a little more rounded at the end. So you should end up with like a shape like this. And you want to like make sure it'll fit on your bowl the right way. And if you want, you can make like the top a little wider. Yep, like this. You just want this shape. And then you have to do this twice. Like this. Woohoo! Circle, teardrop shape, elongate the teardrop shape, press down on it, smooth out the end, elongate it some more. Ta-da, like this. And then I'm just gonna putting them next to each other to make sure they look the same. Yep. Oh, it's lucky. But yeah, they look relatively the same. And I don't know if you guys will have time to do this, so you can skip this step. But actually, if you take a little bit of white and you mix it in with some of the red, just a little bit of red, because red tends to be pretty pigmented, so you don't need that much. And if this is too red, this won't really work. If you mix it together, you can make a pink with the white. Just a tiny bit of red with mostly white, but you don't need that much. You only need a tiny bit. You just knead it between your fingers like this. Eventually it'll form a nice pink. And then what you can do with this is you can make it the inside of your ears. So like, I only use a little bit of red, but even I think this is a little too red. So I'm gonna add a little bit more white, which means I probably won't be able to use all of this pink. So yeah, just a fair warning. I should probably use less or just more white. A ratio of more white to red. A lot more than you would expect. So after I make this, I'm going to split it into 2 even balls again. And you're just going to repeat the same process you did with the red, except to make sure that the pink teardrop shapes are definitely smaller. Yeah. So just forming the ball. And they should be like a lot flatter too. So you don't need that much pink. You can just make the teardrop shape, elongate it, Make sure it's pretty flat. And then you can press it into the ear so it looks like this. You can, yeah, that's what I mean. See, like the pink is really red. It looks bigger difference in person, I swear. You just press it on, lightly tap it on. If you tap it too far on, it'll like lose its shape. So when the clay is still like wet and right out of its packaging, it should press on pretty easily and it shouldn't fall off. But if it does, you can just super glue it back on, so it's not a big deal. Doing the same thing with the other pink, rolling out into a ball, pressing into teardrop shape. With the pink ones, it's definitely easier to press the teardrop shape first and then press it flat. So, and then after I form my teardrop shape again, I'm just gonna put it on top of the red. Top of the red. Oh, I'm not centering it. It's not centered. Top of the red. And then I'm gonna press down to make sure it stays. Just lightly tap it, it'll stay. Yeah. As you can see, I did not do a very good job with the pinks. They're kind of uneven, but this is one ear and this is the other ear. Woohoo! And this, with these, you can kind of bend them this way with pink side down so that they're kind of bent up like this. Pink side down. And then you're just going to attach them like I did with this one to the side of the head. You want to do this with the head like facing forward, how you want it to. And I'm just going to attach it to the side of the head where the head is going to be. And I'm going to press down on the top of it to make sure that it stays on like this. Lightly press down on the top, and so the bottom flares out like that. And then same thing, pink side down. You can bend it up a little bit before you do this. And then just press it down to the side of the bull's head. And if you do it from the top, you can see exactly where you're putting the ears so that you don't make them uneven. Now they're on both sides. You can adjust how bent they are so that that's even too as you're doing it. So that's the ears. Woohoo, ears done. Now we can do the horns. So for the horns, I think I'm gonna go with the blue. I think the blue will look cool. It doesn't really matter. You can do, like for this one, this was a prototype. That's why everything's just black and white. But you can do the bull horns in any color. It doesn't really matter. I just think as long as the body and the head stay the same color, it's really fine. Whatever color they want to use. So for the blue, it's a lot of the same process. A lot of it's just eyeballing it too, based on how big like you make your head and your body. Everything else might be a little smaller or bigger than the amount of clay I use here. So I'm trying to find 2 even balls of blue, and then I'm going to roll it out and then discover that one is going to be enough. So I'm going to split this one. So basically, you don't just make sure at whatever, with like however much clay you decide with, you just have 2 even balls of blue. And then when you roll it into a sphere, you roll it out like this, so it's like a cylinder. And then you pinch one end to form like the teardrop shape again, but only on one end. So it's like a really, really long teardrop basically. And this is going to be your horns. Yep. Like this. You can make them bigger. These horns are a little small, but I do think I made my ears a little too big, so I'm gonna put small horns to compensate for it. Yeah, I will make the other horn. It's just the same thing. You make a circle and then you roll it out into a 2, like that, and then you kind of pinch one end to form the teardrop shape. Teardrop shape, just pinch it this way, that way, and then horn, and then you just like push one end up carefully, and then that'll create the curve you need for the horn. I'm going to set it down next to the other horn to make sure they are somewhat the same. Yeah, and then I'm going to decide that it's good enough. So the way you want to place your horns, I found, is if you look from the top of the head, right, these are your ears, you want to place them right here. Like right between, like there's some of this ear poking out, but it's mostly like right where the ear and the head connect. And it doesn't, like, as long as you place it around there, it's not really that big of a deal, as long as you place both horns in like the same area. Because if you don't, it's pretty noticeable, I think, as you can tell. My horns are different sizes, which is really why it's very important to make sure that you pick, when you make like your horns, you use the same amount of clay and spend maybe a little more time distributing it than I did. Yeah, and then if you want to make sure it doesn't fall off, you can kind of gently put your finger in between the horn and the head and just smooth out. You don't want to be too, you don't want to smack it down or like use too much force, because like it already sticks okay kind of, and if you do that, then you will like mess up like the roundness of the head, which is really what we're trying to maintain here. So now that we've done this, woohoo, that's done. I'm gonna first bag up the clay. That's a big thing about this clay, is that it dries out really, really easily. So whenever you're not using it, you definitely want to put it in a resealable container or a plastic bag so it does not dry out while you're trying to work with it. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to add on the eyes. If they feel like the eyes are too hard to add on with clay, which is very understandable, you can just give them a Sharpie and they can just draw on the eyes. Even while the clay is still like workable, it's not gonna be a big deal. It just happens sometimes. Okay, so if they are gonna do it with clay, it's the same process. You take some black and then you keep on splitting it until it's two even, really, really small balls that you think are going to be good for eyes. You roll them into spheres. You make sure they're the same size so it doesn't look off. Yeah, okay, that's about the same size. And then so when you look at the side of the bowl, you want to place them a little bit. They went under the horn, but a little bit in the front. So like right here should be okay. And then do the same thing for the other side. Like I said, I like to look from above to make sure that they are at like the same way. But if they're not, it's really okay, because you're not gonna like look at more than one side of the bowl at once, right? My bowl is kind of convoluted, but it's okay. It's okay. So it looks like that. There's the two eyes. I think it's looking very cute, even if it is kind of, it's not perfect, but it's okay. This is just like a pretty chill project. And so after that, I'm going to see, this is like a thing with colors. I'm not very good with colors, so I think I'm going to do the ring next. This thing right here, the little ring, I'm gonna do it in yellow because I think that makes a lot of sense. Especially to differentiate as like a piece of jewelry. I think yellow makes a lot of sense. You don't need too much, just a little tiny bit. Really don't need a lot. This is probably gonna be how much I'm using. You just roll it out into a little tube and then realize that it's too much clay, so just put some of it back. Ah, no, I knocked it down. Okay. Roll up into a tiny tube, and it should be pretty, like it shouldn't be super long. It should be kind of thick like that, and then you just push it in. Oh, I dropped it. Well, I will find it later, I suppose. For now, I'll just make another one. Ah, gosh. Roll it into a little tube. And then you kind of want to pinch the sides in so that they're a little skinnier. And then you just push it upwards so that it forms a U shape. It should be a pretty big U. it should, like, you should be able to draw a line and connect the two skinny points. And then so what you do with this, you lift up your bowl very carefully, and then you just kind of put it underneath. And you kind of just, if you push it in and just leave it there, it should stay if your clay is not dried out. If it is dried out, then I would suggest maybe just gluing on the ends. I don't know how possible that's going to be. So, but yeah, so just try not to draw out the clay, I guess. And then you can use like your fingertips to like kind of push at this ends to make sure that nothing falls off. But it should stay as is. And I'm trying to reform the head so that it stays pretty circular. I'm going to press down the ends of the yellow so that they stay in. And ta-da! Nose ring. Yep. Okay, and I'm going to put this down very carefully because I don't want to disturb the nose ring when I do. So I'm going to put it down on the edge of the table so that the nose ring hangs off the side so it doesn't hit anything. Like that. Oh, this is so stressful. Okay, so I've decided that for the heart on the, I'm thinking, do I have any other? Okay, yeah, so for the heart on the top of the head, this little marking, I think I just added because I think it's cute. You guys, you probably don't really need it. I'm just gonna use yellow and I'm gonna give it a little. So if you want to do the heart, I've seen like people usually do triangles too. You just pinch one end, make the teardrop shape, and then you put your finger here, and then you can make like a triangle. Some people also do diamonds, which is you just pinch both ends and then you flatten it and then you just pinch both ends again so that you form like a double teardrop shape. And then if you like put your hand here, just put it in, it looks like a diamond. You can do that too, but I do like hearts, so I'm just gonna go with the heart, which is you just roll a sphere, and then I'm gonna press it down a little bit, and then just take my nail and just put it in between on one end, and then I'm gonna press it out again, and then I'm just gonna keep widening. I dropped it again. I'm gonna find it. Okay, I'm not gonna find it. All right, time to make another one. Yeah, so just going through the... So sad. I can't believe I dropped some. I'm gonna have to go find that clay after this. Rolling the sphere, flattening it out, pinching it into a teardrop in one shape, and then using my nail to dig in with the other side to make the heart. Yeah, like that. And then just repeat this process, smoothing out the inside of the heart till you form a heart that you like. And then I'm just going to... Ooh. Honestly, if they want, they could really just make a circle and like put it on top. This is too much of a hassle. I personally really like hearts though, so... God, almost dropped it. Almost dropped it again. Okay, I'm just smoothing out the tops of the heart, deepening the inside. Okay, I'm just gonna reform it. You know, sometimes that's just what you gotta do. If it's not working out, just make it into a sphere again and try to reform the shape you want to. Okay, I've got like a semi-satisfactory heart, so I'm just going to take my heart, and I'm just gonna put it right in between the horns. You can see that's like where I put it there. I dropped it again, God. Oh, I found it. Let's go. Okay, yeah. So I'm just gonna drop it right in between the horns. And I'm going to lightly press down on it to make sure it stays there. Yep. Once again, don't press too hard, otherwise it'll mess with the shape of the bull, and that's really sad. Okay, so I put it on. Now, before we put on the head, I like to make the tail, which will need more red, so if you're keeping track, for the body color, you just need to make sure you have enough for the ears, the head, the body, and the tail, which this will just not take that much clay. You just take a bit, roll it into a ball, and then into a cylinder, and then realize you have too much clay, rip off some of it. So the way you want the cylinder to be shaped, you want to only roll like on one side of it. So it looks kind of like a carrot, but make sure the end's not too pointy. It's just a little bit pointier than the other end. So a little something like this, where it's just a really long teardrop again. And oh my gosh, make sure it's not too long because you're putting it at the end of your body. So if it's like longer than your body, that's not gonna work. And for the end of my tail, because my horns are blue, I think I'm also going to use a little bit of blue so that it matches. And so you just take a really small bit of blue and roll it into a ball and pinch a teardrop shape. Yeah, like this. Teardrop shape. Teardrop shape. Can you see it? Yep. So it's just pointy on one end, basically. It's a sphere where it's a little bit pointy on the other end, and this is going to be like the hair at the end of the tail. So I'm just going to take the tail and I'm just going to press it on. I'm just going to press it onto one end like that. And then I like to bend the tail up a little bit because I think it looks cuter. And I'm just going to put it on. So I'm just going to take it with the hair attached. You can't really see it, my hand's in the way, but just going to take it, decide which end I want to be the tail. Maybe like, I like to put the uglier end with the head because it'll cover it up. And you're just going to put it on and press down on the top of it to make sure it stays on. And if it droops little, which it's bound to, just leave it be, it's okay. And then so now that I've attached that, I'm going to take my bull head and I'm just gonna lightly put it on to this side. And this time you'll actually have to like press a little bit because your bull head's pretty heavy. It has a lot of things on it, which is why you also like, when you make the horns and the ears, you probably should not have made, my ears are a little too big, okay? So if you don't make them that big, because that's a lot of weight that you're gonna have to be pressing down with without trying to change the shape of the bull head too much. You want to put it a little bit closer to like the top of the body, like this is. So most of the head is actually on the body, so it doesn't fall forward and your head falls off, because that'd be really sad. But yeah, that's it. When it's done, it should look like this. You can kind of see it. Like that. And now you just have to be really careful not to touch it until it dries. And beware that it might fall off. Like some parts might fall off while it's drying, and if that's the case, don't try to press it back on, because in my experience that like it just doesn't work out. It ended up changing the shape of the clay forever, and it folds and it's not pretty when it's like half dried. So you should just wait for it to completely dry and then like glue it back on. Read the packaging to see how long it takes to dry. Sometimes it's a day, sometimes like 3 days. Depends. If you really want to, and if you have extra time, you can also add like little spots of like, I don't know, like yellow, like on the back. That might be cute. But I think I'm just gonna leave him as is. Woohoo!